My dear friends and colleagues, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you on one of the most important topics in which I have been involved for a long number of years to work. It has been my privilege to continue to meet people who have been suffering from mental disorders or having problems with psychological matters. They, their parents, their loved one, their friends have given me immense opportunity to understand their behavior and psyche. The problem today that we are facing is about students' mental health. And in general, we are talking about suicide prevention on the day of global our World Suicide Prevention Day approaching on 10th of September, and we are going to celebrate. Theme is about creating hope through action. Yes, hope is a consequence of action, and this is the theme of this year that we will be talking throughout the year in every corner of this earth, discussing about what measures can be taken, what measures should be undertaken, what helps, what is the evidence to increase the resilience and tolerance people to cope with adverse circumstances and continue to survive in the midst of adversity. As we know, in India, in our country, more than 13,000 students have died last year due to suicide. And we also know that these numbers are underrepresented in every corner of this planet. We also know that about 10 times are those who have attempted a suicide and have been fortunate enough to be saved, and they are amongst us. But let's not forget that they continue to remain at a high risk for next few years if they are not attended to for their psychological problems. Now, the topic that I want to deal with is what best can be done or what best should be done to prevent student suicide. To come to this aspect, we must understand what is the current understanding or current concept of suicide behavior or suicidal ideation. To open, let's recap that there is hardly anybody in this world who has never felt suicidal in lifetime. But so miraculous is the functioning of our body and mind is that our internal breaks of cognitive set of the mind is so strong and so powerful, so unique and conspicuous that it does not allow a fraction of a second to let the negative idea dominate over the positive idea of surviving and living life meaningfully. The second submission that I have is the observation made through research papers in our country as in many other countries, and that is that about 10% of students in university campus are surviving with an active suicidal ideas all the time. They are the walking risk personnel. Anything happening in their life which tilts the balance, problem in their decision making, problem in their emotional equilibrium, and an attempt happens. When an attempt happens, it is then the strength of health services and the time gap in transportation for care, which allows an individual to be lucky enough to survive. It is not really the services alone that determine the death or life after an attempt. If that was so, in the vicinity of health services, suicide prevention, suicide ideation, suicide attempt would always have been less, but that's not the case. The city of Mumbai is full of health services. Every corner you have one or the other hospital. But does that make Mumbaikar more safe against suicide? No. The rate of suicide in Mumbai city is just the same as in any metro city of our country. So services as protection net is just one factor which consoles us and provides a lot of logistics and support for an individual who has attempted suicide to survive. What is more important, whether we have developed the services to respond to the challenge of suicidal ideation and suicidal crisis. We'll come back to this aspect little later. In order to understand suicide behavior, we must also recollect that it is a multifactorial problem. We do not really know how suicidal thought gets converted into suicidal act, what factors operate, but whatever we understand based upon research and observation through clinical practice, we know that it is a combination of biological, psychological, social, environmental, ecological, and cultural factors. And let's not exclude the spiritual factor, which many times is the strongest protective factor. Thus, before we consider what best can be done, let us recap and keep on the side the factors which contribute in increasing the risk of suicidality, the risk factors which precipitate suicide, and the protective factors which protect an individual, like a well-knit family, like presence of children, like economic stability, like a good equilibrium of mind and brain and spiritual sense of being. We continue this discussion further. Thank you very much for this opportunity and continuing the discussion to forward to decide and to deliberate as to what best can be done to prevent suicide attempt in our young students. Let's having recap what are the fundamental problems. That is, there could be difficulties of psychological nature in the student's ability and strength. There are pressures from the family, problems in the school, in the curriculum, problems with friend circle, in economic difficulties, relationship problem, and of course, presence of one or more mental disorders, substance abuse, depression, psychosis, and so on and so forth. But of course, we need to do many things. That means that no area from where the stress and the risk is arising can be left alone. It must be addressed. Parents need to rethink about the benefit of doing an assessment whether their sons and daughters are able to meet the expectation that they desire, whether the students are genuinely interested in pursuing the career that they are looking into, whether they have the readiness, mental preparedness, and ability to withstand the pressure of preparation, or they are getting into a competitiveness which can be healthy and a competitiveness which can be only negative. हम जिसको कहते हैं कि आप स्पर्धा में जा रहे हैं या द्वंद्व में जा रहे हैं. Whether you are competing for a healthy outcome or you are competing to prove a point and show someone down. The two are very different. They are different by the very objective methodology and the outcome. One is psychologically negative and other one is psychologically positive. in one set of problems, you only inherit problems. You deal with negative emotions, agitate day in and day out with yourself, become angry, hostile, and remain sad, worried, never confident, never sure. And another set of competitiveness, you are trying to build your strength, trying to learn more, trying to know more, trying to do the brain maturation exercise in a much better manner, acquire the wealth of knowledge, skill, and wisdom to perform better in order to prove yourself to be a better human being. And therefore, the fundamental difference is lying in the nature of competitiveness that we inculcate. Now, where does it come from? It comes from the culture in the family and the culture in the school. We need to teach our children very responsible method of feeling competitiveness and to tell them what is competition, what is to, and why it is important to be better than others. You do things better so that overall good for the mankind is done. If somebody is deficient, you cover it up. For example, if you are co-pilot with somebody and that somebody is not so astute or not so skilled, your skills come at an advantage and save the situation in crisis. That's what the meaning of competitiveness is. It is not that that other person should perish, should vanish, should do nothing, and you remain involved in making the strategy to destroy certain things rather than to build certain things. So that's the fundamental difference is in positivity. Now, a couple of minutes, what is positivity? A positivity of mindset is related to, in fact, there are about half a dozen characteristics in psychological virtues that we call optimism, optimism, hope, resilience, trust, faith. They all are sequential changes in the brain biochemistry and its behavioral connotation, which arises from feeling healthy and positive in your mindset. The positive psychological characteristics not only let you construct a very vibrant personality with good self-esteem and ability and skills, but they also create a neurobiological condition wherein a new genesis of brain cells, that is neuroplasticity, comes at handy in times of emotional crisis when a lot of brain cells are destroying at a very fast speed. So you have a mechanism to overcome this deficit and maintain the neurochemical communication in the brain, and your psychological channels are always then intact. That is the biology of positivity. That is how positivity helps you strengthen and restore your inner self. That is crucial. So we see that our children need to understand, or we need to train the children in a manner that they develop trust and faith. How do they do that? They learn it from their role models. The insecurity in the family must be dealt with. If the parents are secure, emotionally bonded, are caring, and they transmit love and affection to their children in a manner that they learn it, and they are able to care about others just in the same manner that they are being cared for, then you can say that we have inculcated some of the positive cultural, civilizational values in terms of human psychology, which will yield result into psychological birth of psychological virtues, which will enable an individual to grow as an adult with a robust personality, with very high self-esteem and mental strength. And that is the kind of person we want our universities to have. And therefore, suicide prevention is one of the tasks accomplished if we are able to provide emotional security to our children from our family culture and values. Thank you very much.